Spider-Man's banging an alien? Huh? I did not see this coming. If I'm going to be honest with every single one of you guys right now, I did not see this coming at all. In the most recent issue of Amazing Spider-Man, we see that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, after going through some events with a whole new suit symbiote thing, gets rid of this new suit, but he still has part of it on him. But that's not what we're focusing on today. What he's focusing on here is at the end of the issue, this woman, this alien lady by the name of Raelith the Wretched, I believe is her name. She goes up to Peter and she's like, did you just do that? What I think you did for that man? And then he's like, well, I did it because I thought it was the right thing to do. And then she just starts making out with him and he's like, you can keep going. And it's like, oh, Peter Parker's Spider-Man is now with another woman. Another woman. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that insane? I feel like every single day when I go on anything, any social media site or anything, if I see Mary Jane's name brought up, it's how she is just a cheater because of some extenuating circumstances so outside of her range. It's not her fault. But Peter Parker's Spider-Man could get with how many women since he and Mary Jane broke up, or since they had the one more day in 2008? How many women has Peter Parker's Spider-Man been with since one more day in comparison to Mary Jane? Because everybody likes to say Mary Jane is sleeping around, right? Everybody likes to say Mary Jane is a wild party animal. But when we look at it, let's actually talk about it. Actually, we're going to talk about each and every single love interest. We're going to talk on all of them since Spider-Man and Mary Jane had their marriage dissolved by the devil, by Mephisto himself, okay? Before I do start this off, I'm going to ask each and every single one of you guys, comment down below who you think is Spider-Man's best love interest. I think there's only one answer. I'm praying I only see one answer. You guys are all going to have your own perspectives, and I'm going to respect it. You guys can say what you want. Y'all know who I think is the GOAT Spider-Man love interest, and I wouldn't even personally entertain any argument against her. But you guys feel free to start your own arguments and figure out who you think is the best love interest. While I talk about all these women Peter seems to be getting with since his marriage was obliterated by the devil. Starting with Michelle Gonzalez. This is right after One More Day. And this one was weird as hell right off the bat. Because it feels like they didn't really like each other. I don't understand why they were together. Like, they slept with each other and they were hanging out with each other because of, like, the apartment that she was watching over. But, like, her character felt like a nothing burger, and her and Peter definitely didn't get along. Like, I think the last thing she says to Peter is, like, you know, you're not that bad. You're not as bad as I thought you were. And it's like, wow, why are you dating me if you think I'm bad in the first place? What do you mean I'm not as bad as you thought I was? Like, I don't understand the sentiment of having a partner and then having this exact thought process about them. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like right away, right after Mary Jane was taken out of the picture, they were just like, all right, well, these relationships don't really matter. Just throw anything at the wall. Because for this to be the very first relationship afterwards is befuddling to me. I can't fathom why they wouldn't try and make something that's like, you know, they could have something that was a little bit more lasting, something that was a little bit more impactful, a relationship where they at least liked each other. But, I mean, I can't fault them. This is what they wanted to do, right? They wanted Peter to go out and about. Otherwise, why they would have kept him married if they didn't want him out and about with different women constantly. Next up is Carol Danvers. Yeah, Spider-Man went out on, if I'm not mistaken, one date with her. Just one. And it actually was a really poor date, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But a date's a date. And we're talking about all the women Peter Parker Spider-Man's dated since One More Day. And this definitely would count, even if it was a really bad date. After that, we have Carlie Cooper, which is like a more of a substantial character. This woman is fucking crazy. I did not like her from the get-go. I never liked her from the first time we meet her, all the way up until she was like turned into a goblin. Still didn't like her. This character is just so odd. At one point, she literally debated getting a Green Goblin tattoo on her because she thought it would make Peter Parker mad. She settled on getting a Spider-Man tattoo because she figured that would make him jealous because Peter Parker and Spider-Man work so closely together. She obviously doesn't know it's the same person. But either way, a Green Goblin tattoo? The man that killed his girlfriend. The man that killed his child. This is the man that killed his clone. This is the person you were thinking about getting like a tattoo of. I can't fathom this person. I think this is a little insane. I think it's wild. And honestly, I don't like Carlie Cooper. I didn't like the relationship from the get-go. And like I didn't like how they try to make it seem like this was the first impactful one. Because she's just so goddamn crazy, I didn't like it to matter like that. But they had her written in Superior Spider-Man as like the person who's really like theorizing that like, this isn't really Peter Parker. this has got to be somebody else. And like obviously like Doc Ock and Peter Parker, or you know, it's hard to explain, but the Doc Ock Peter Parker who was talking to Carlie told her this information before they died, so she did have a leg up on everybody. Anybody in the entirety of the Marvel Universe that interacted with Superior Spider-Man should have known this wasn't Peter. That motherfucking Peter has never once in his life said the die is cast. So every single person around him should have known this wasn't Peter. I can't understand why they decided to make Carlie Cooper the one who was like really trying to figure out this and expose it. I don't know. To me, it just doesn't really work. Never liked the character. Thought she was too crazy from the get-go. But we'll move on to Anna Marconi. We're on number 4. We are at 4 different people Peter Parker has technically been on dates with since One More Day. And this is more of a Superior Spider-Man thing. She never really dates Peter Parker's Spider-Man because she dates Doc Ock and Peter Parker's Spider-Man's body. However, I will say this is probably one of the few characters here on this list that I actually enjoyed reading about and learning. She gets more fleshed out than the other characters. She feels more real than the other characters. She feels more sympathetic and caring and kind while also still having her own morals and boundaries. I thought she was a pretty damn great character, actually. You know, she actually has to, like, come to grips with the fact that she dated Peter Parker, who was actually Otto Octavius, and she actually has to, like, deal with that. Like, that's not something they just brush off or anything. She does actually have to confront that at a head within herself, and I think that that's great as character development. She's one of the few characters in here that I think had good character development. It's a shame she didn't actually date Peter. She was just dating Otto, but it counts. This is that body count, bro. And then after that, we have Cindy Moon. This relationship is probably the most forced relationship on this entire list. The pheromones thing is it's just gross. There's no other way around it. I don't think any person who reads Spider-Man should have to read that Spider-Man has this scent lingering around that when he smells, it makes him want to bang the other person who's giving off the scent, and vice versa. I just don't understand this. Why did they think this belonged in any comic book? I don't believe it. Maybe on like some weird random-ass rinky-dink book that nobody has to read. But you will be reading this if you want to read the Intro to Spider-Verse. If you want to read the very first Spider-Verse comic book ever, you have to read this happening. Because they're doing it to start the Spider-Verse. And I hated that. On top of that, that's the only reason the relationship was a thing in the first place. They don't really have like much in common. Like they were in like the class together, obviously. But we didn't know much about her in class with Peter Parker. Then she goes into the freaking vault for God knows how many years. And that's it. She doesn't really have much to relate to him outside of that. It's not like she's like some super genius like him. It's not like she's into photography like him. She's into more like news and stuff, which is pretty cool. I like Cindy Moon. Let me not make it seem like I don't like Cindy Moon. Love her. I probably have every single comic she's ever been in. Like, not even joking. I'm a big fan of Cindy Moon. Her as a partner for Peter Parker Spider-Man is just trash, though. Because they didn't really have anything in common. The only reason they did it in the first place was because, like, the pheromones thing. And that was just gross. Moving on. We were at, I believe, number 6. We are at number 6 right now, and at number 6, we have Lian Tang. This one's very short-lived. The story that she's in is bad. Her story specifically is pretty compelling, but she dates Peter when Peter was, you know, the CEO of Parker Industries. But the entirety of the time, she was stealing secret information and selling it for medication for her mother to the Zodiac. The Zodiac arc, if you've read it, it's in The Amazing Spider-Man. It fucking sucks. I hated it, at least. I thought it was so bad. So I didn't really care for her character off that. Like, when I just think about this arc, thinking back to it, I'm just like, damn, I really didn't give a shit about that. I thought that shit was ass. And then I think about her character. I actually thought her character had a kind of a compelling story, right? She's lying to Peter Parker while she's dating him because she's stealing information from the company so she can get medication for her mother's survival. It's like, damn, it's kind of heavy, dude. I get where you're coming from. I'm really not trying to hate on it. I'm really like trying to like, you know, like diminish her story. I think her story in itself is pretty good. It's just super duper short lived, and it's sadly within the Zodiac storyline, which I thought was just trash. So we're gonna move on to the next person, which is Mockingbird. And if there was nothing more random than this, I don't know what is. Mockingbird just I don't understand how they even managed to put these two together. I don't know why they decided to put these two together. It just felt like it was some random shit that a writer was like, you know, Spider-Man isn't really dating anybody. We could put him with Mockingbird. I think that could work, right? And it's just like, no. It's just so random. There's nothing to it. They don't stick. They don't really have anything in common. For me, I just didn't give a damn about it. We're going to more depth when all the list is done. And I'll talk about, like, what this is consistently showing, because there's a consistent theme throughout all of these love interests if you haven't noticed. It's very, very consistent. But the very next love interest we're going to talk about after Mockingbird is one that you may find phenomenal. This one is just awesome. It's Mary Jane again. Mary Jane is back, and she's with Peter Parker again during Nick Spencer's run. This is a phenomenal portrayal for Mary Jane. Mary Jane is written exactly how you want her to be. She is herself. She's bright and colorful. She's a fashionista. She's dripping the drip out. She's there to help Spider-Man when Spider-Man needs help. She's there at a moment's notice. She's actually Doctor Strange's champion. Like, this is so cool. I like how they prop her up so much because she really is like that. She really is that awesome. Her and Peter have so much in common, like they're a little dance party and whatnot. I just love it. All in all, I love it. And what they would do after this is mind-blowing to me, because the very next writer would just axe all of that great character work we got from Mary Jane and Peter Parker, throw it straight out the window, and they're going to go with Black Cat this time around. And Black Cat this time around sucks. Like, I actually love Black Cat. This is, again, another character on this list I'm a big fan of. But as Peter Parker's partner, especially written by Zeb Wells, it was so bad. It was so bad. Peter Parker just seemed like he didn't care about the whole thing. They didn't really feel like they had a love connection at all. Like, they'd have flings here and there, but it didn't feel like there was anything, like, actually there between the two of them, in my opinion. Then you go to the end of the Zeb Wells run where Peter Parker and Black Cat, like, officially break up. And the reasoning they give for them to break up is because Black Cat felt like it was just too healthy of a relationship. What? That doesn't even make sense. So, again, there is a theme here we will talk about very shortly. I have 2 more characters on this list to bring up, and then we'll talk about the common theme among all of these characters and just how it compares to Mary Jane when she was married to Spider-Man. But after Black Cat, we actually have Shay. In my opinion, Shay's just straight up lame as hell. There's nothing about her I give a damn about. What I did care about was that she worked at Ravencroft, and when Ravencroft was being drawn by Pepper Larraz, it looks great. So I thought that was pretty cool, but her character itself is a complete nothing burger. It doesn't matter. You don't really get to know anything about her other than she works as like a patient specialist at Ravencroft for these criminals. And she doesn't see herself in a committed relationship with Peter Parker. That's really it. Peter Parker's like standing her up and he's late to stuff, and then he makes it up to her by actually showing up and then kissing her and then continuing the date. But you don't actually get to know anything about her. It doesn't matter. They never focus on it. She's just lame and boring as hell. And then we move to the final character we're going to talk about on this list, Raelith the Wretched. We just talked about her earlier to start this video. She's the current alien baddie that Peter Parker is currently smashing. And yeah, I do believe this, because I can't really say much more than that. Like, we've seen her in like 2 or 3 issues. She's pretty cool, I guess. But like, this is the list, okay? We have 11 different women Peter Parker Spider-Man has been with since One More Day. And there is a consistent theme amongst all of these women, besides Mary Jane for some reason, which is shocking because Mary Jane is the one person he was actually married to for an extended period of time out of everybody on this list, or anybody in his entire mythos. And what is that one consistent theme you can point out amongst all of these love interests? They don't actually matter. And that's not me hating on them. Like, they don't actually matter. Like, let's look at Michelle Gonzalez. Was she around for... How many issues do you guys think Michelle Gonzalez was around for? What would you say? Like, oh, his first love interest after One More Day. She's got to be there for like at least like 60 to 70 issues, right? No, you would be very mistaken. She's actually only in a whopping 28 issues. That's it. It didn't really matter. And on top of that, it was more of like a fling and they were just hanging out together. Then you go to Carol Danvers. There was just one date that didn't work out. We don't hold it against anybody. We move on to Carlie Cooper. Carlie Cooper actually has some more substantial story to her, but she's just crazy. She's literally utterly insane, but I will not lie, she does have more story to her. She dates Peter. She helps out during Superior Spider-Man. She becomes a goblin during Superior Spider-Man. She helps out after that even still. So I won't lie, Carlie still has a little bit more to her, but what did her relationship really matter to Peter Parker? Right? Like, did it have any actual lasting effects on him? Not really, because right after that happens, the Superior Spider-Man arc happens, and right after that, he gets right with Cindy Moon. The Superior Spider-Man arc happens with Anna Marconi, and again, I can't act like this is Peter Parker. This is Otto Octavius in Peter Parker's body. I do think this is one of the few relationships that were written in this entire time frame to matter, right? Like, constantly throughout Superior Spider-Man, Anna Marconi's character matter. Like, so much so. We get to find out so much about her, how she feels about things, how she chips in to help Doc Ock, or Spock, Superior Spider-Man's Doc Ock. She actually definitely mattered, but she didn't actually date Peter Parker's Spider-Man. She dated Doc Ock in his body. But then you go to Cindy Moon. Did Cindy Moon feel like she actually mattered in the relationship? No. They were fuck buddies. They were just banging. Whether they were banging on, like, the building roof outside and during the daylight, or they were banging on the ceiling inside around Anna Marconi. Like, they were just constantly all over each other. It didn't feel like the relationship actually mattered. It just felt like it was there to show that Peter's having sex. Then you go to Lian Tang. Again, Lian Tang. How long do you think Lian Tang lasted for? Like I said, she's there for the Zodiac storyline. She's there for Parker Industries. She's stealing from Peter Parker to sell secrets to give her mother medicine. Sounds like it's like a decent length story, right? You think she's being a lot? 7 issues. 7 issues. So the whole thing is these relationships don't actually matter, right? What happened between the time of Spider-Man and Mockingbird being together? That felt like it mattered. When did anything happen with their time together where you felt like if Mockingbird were to, like, get put in harm's way, Peter Parker would never be the same again? I personally never felt that feeling once. Then we go to Mary Jane. That feeling is made known constantly throughout this run by Nick Spencer. Constantly, Mary Jane matters throughout this run. We're constantly checking in on her. We're constantly seeing how she feels about things. She's constantly pitching a hand in. Much like Anna Marconi, who was, in my opinion, a great love interest, just as Superior Spider-Man, she is written very well, and she is given a lot of panel time, which matters for a love interest. Mary Jane needed that so she can finally, get acclimated with the two of them back together again, and I'm glad they did that during Nick Spencer's run. But then we moved to Black Cat. At any point during the Zeb Wells run, did you feel like if Black Cat got hurt, Spider-Man would never be the same? No, you definitely didn't. You don't lie to me. Don't go to that comment section but no, I cared about Black Cat during... We all care about Black Cat. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they didn't make it seem like the relationship matters to the character Spider-Man. None of these feel like it mattered. Like I just said, Black Cat in the Zeb Wells run, they literally break up because it's too healthy. That's not a reasoning to break up. That's just not. Black Cat's not the same Black Cat from 20 to 30 years ago where she's just always mischievous. She's always trying to steal stuff. No, she's grown since then. She can be in a healthy relationship without, like, freaking out and trying to leave any relationship she gets into. I can't fathom that they try to end it like this. When you do something like this, it shows the relationship doesn't matter. You're ready to just move on to the next one. The fans don't want to read this anymore. We want to move on to the next one. When these are actual characters, no one's going to be invested in these stories as much. If you're not going to treat these characters like actual characters, you're not going to treat the relationships like actual relationships. And then what better character to talk about not mattering in a relationship than Shay? How often do we get to see Shay in these books? Well, not often at all. First off, she's not very prominent in these books. She doesn't really show up that often. Don't let me gas it up. But when she does show up, how often do we see her like matter to Peter Parker? To me, it doesn't seem like she does. I don't know what you guys could say would make it. Like, Peter Parker stands up to Rhino and Screwball and tells them to fuck off for one night so he can go on a date with her. If anything, it felt like character assassination rather than Peter Parker like growing so he can make his relationship matter. You know why? Because he just goes and cheats on her with Black Cat during the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. So I can't see how this is supposed to matter to Peter Parker if he's just so willing to cheat on her. Like, it shouldn't matter. Like, that shouldn't happen. It doesn't make sense if you're going to write it like that. And then they go even further and write it that Shay's like, oh, well, we're in an open relationship. We're not exclusive. It's like, that's interesting because Peter was freaking out about this. So he thought that he was in an exclusive relationship. I shouldn't say freaking out about it. He just didn't know that that's what Shay thought. He thought he was in an exclusive relationship with Shay, but still cheated on her with Black Cat. He didn't know that Shay thought this was an open relationship. So it just seems like these relationship aspects do not matter. They just don't. Shay's already being moved on with, aren't we? Like, I can't say that for sure. Peter's still in space. Maybe he comes back from space and he tries to rekindle things with her. As of right now, she only has 27 appearances, which is actually more than a lot of the characters on this list, which is funny. At least like in a relationship with Peter, I should say. But her time seems like it's coming to an end, and we're going with Raelith, the Wretched. I personally feel like this will only just be a short stint while they're in outer space together, because I can't see them continuing to date when they're on Earth, but who knows? I could be wrong or mistaken. But there's not much I can really say about her character. They could make her matter. They could make her relationship important to Spider-Man. But as of now, we have yet to see that for any character that isn't Mary Jane, unless we're talking about Anna Marconi with Superior Spider-Man. We just haven't seen it. We haven't. And to me, the character Spider-Man is worse off without it. When you read some of the classic Spider-Man stories with Spider-Man married to Mary Jane, like, you guys should check out the J.D. Matisse omnibus for Spectacular Spider-Man. You guys have to check it out because it is otherworldly. All the times Mary Jane matters in these stories and adds to Spider-Man's mythos and adds to Spider-Man's character. It makes these stories that much better. It really does. But at the end of the day, editorial clearly does not want Spider-Man to be with just one person. Clearly, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have had him be with 11 different people since One More Day happened. It wouldn't make sense for them to do that. This is clearly what their plan was. They feel like Spider-Man is more relatable if he's allowed to sleep around and be with more women. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. I don't agree with that because I prefer to have one partner. I'm not one to sleep around. But there is one thing I will agree with the editorial, or why I will say I'm not the most angry with this decision, okay? To me, Peter Parker's soulmate is Mary Jane. It's just straight up. I think that's already been decided. The editors have even said themselves, if Spider-Man was supposed to end, they would just have him end with Mary Jane. But since it's not supposed to end, they're going to tell stories without him with Mary Jane. But that, everybody knows, end goal is Mary Jane. So if you're now going to write Spider-Man in the sense that he's not allowed to be with one specific partner and he's always in a rotating door, it's like, okay, well, at least this shows he can't be with anyone else but Mary Jane. And that's the only real solace I can take in this, because really that does help me out. It's not like Carlie Cooper showed up onto the scene and I had to be like, now everybody thinks Carlie Cooper is the next big Spider-Man love interest. She's bigger than Mary Jane. Nope. At no point did any of these characters become or were ever seen as a bigger love interest than Mary Jane. The only character on this list specifically that would be rivaling Mary Jane is Black Cat. And Black Cat, written by Zeb Wells, is certainly not rivaling Mary Jane in any aspect. Classic Black Cat, a lot of people like with Spider-Man. I won't hate on it. Gwen Stacy, a lot of people like with Spider-Man. You know, it's their perspective. It's their viewpoint. I personally think Mary Jane is easily the best. But notice how neither of those characters, classic Black Cat or classic Gwen Stacy, appeared on this list. Editorial does not want relationships to matter. They don't want it to be a big part of the Spider-Man mythos. I don't know why. I'm just glad that it shows that Mary Jane is the perfect person for Spider-Man. And I can't wait for them to finally come around to that idea, because we all know that it's the truth. Peter Parker Spider-Man should be with Mary Jane. He needs to stop hoeing, and he needs to come home and be with his perfect woman. Dunk out. Peace!